as an organisation, it's our business purpose to manage risk. We manage it on behalf of our clients. We're an insurance company, so by nature we have to manage our own risk, and clearly anything that potentially disrupts our business, be it a major catastrophe or a minor form of disruption, is something that needs to be dealt with, understood, planned for to some degree. The key points we have is that business continuity is an integral part of the business. It's not ancillary to, and it's not dealt with by a distinct department. The responsibility for developing business continuity plans and manuals and material is very much pushed back to the business itself, and each department and division within the business has a pair of BCP officers, and between them they develop the material. So it is of and for the business rather than imposed upon them from the outside. And the other thing we do is try and inculcate it into the whole philosophy of the company by making it part of the induction process. So every new member of staff receives a staff guide printed that they're sent to their home, so they've always got a copy there. And also, as part of the induction process, everyone has to visit this site so they understand where the preferred recovery location is. We've had a contract with what is now SunGard since the early 90s, starting off on simple system IT disaster recovery, computer recovery, server recovery, that aspect. And it's just evolved from there. As we've evolved as a company from looking at disaster recovery to looking at business continuity, kind of SunGard's grown up with us, if you like, in terms of offering the services we've needed at each stage. It's good to see that the business still treats it with the importance it needs, despite the economic climate. I mean, some companies might use the current conditions as a reason for not spending so much money, for example, on things like business continuity. But Markel, that's not the case, because it doesn't matter what the economic climate is. You've still got a business, and it's still got to survive disruption if it happens. It's on now. It's got about 6 hours left to run. It's been 2 days. We've had all of our London office have been involved in the test. Of some 300 odd people, we've had 180 visit this site over 2 days and work from here. And the bulk of the people not here have been working from home using remote access facilities, as well as some other facilities that we've set up specifically for the test. So this is an annual business test as opposed to an IT test. To a degree, they don't, because the plan encompasses scenarios such as that. In very broad terms, we try and avoid scenario planning because, as sure as eggs is eggs, what happens is not the thing you've planned for. But I think when something hits the headlines, like pandemic, like flood last year, like the terrorist issues, it makes you go back, revise the plans, make sure they're up to date, make sure they can cope with that particular instance. You can't plan for everything, but you can broadly plan flexibility so that if something happens, you can deal with it because you have the resources to hand. So it focuses the mind on one specific area, but not for long, because it's simply a case of making sure the plans can cope with any disruption. The scope was the whole London office, everyone, including the front of house operations, for want of a better term, the claims and underwriting staff, and all the support units. So we've primarily been testing that they are able to work according to some level of disruption, being the loss of the office. We've also tested IT recovery in terms of the desktop, our workstation image on SunGard's workstations, and communications facilities such as the phone primarily, and also fax to a lesser degree. The approach we take is that as the business continuity manager, I provide the facilities for the business to test their plans. I'm not testing my plan, they're testing theirs. And as such, the business itself is heavily involved in preparation and planning for this test. And they're equally involved in the wrap-up and the information gathering afterwards. So any Any of the sort of myriad actions and issues arising are discussed with the BCP officers, and collectively the business agrees what needs to change. So it's very much an inclusive process. There are a number of benefits. The first one, primarily, that a plan which isn't tested is not a plan. You have to test it in order to know that it works. But more importantly, what it does is it plays to our mantra of business continuity, if you like, within Markel, which is that the purpose of business continuity is not about surviving, it's giving the business the confidence to know that they can survive. And by doing this, by having so many people down here, they've seen the site, they've understood the facilities, they know what their role would be and how they might be expected to work in a given situation. It creates a muscle memory of actions, so that if they do get the call in the middle of the night saying we've got a problem and you need to be at the recovery site in 24 hours, they know where the site is and they know what to expect. So that's the value of testing. We test a number of aspects of it in a number of different ways. A large-scale business test like this is an annual process. IT recovery is tested in smaller environments on a monthly basis. We do a full-blown IT recovery with our SunGard facilities at least once a year, sometimes more. It depends upon the rate of change within our technological environment. If we have a major system or a major change in some aspect of how we deliver a system, then we make a point of testing that sooner rather than later.